Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 7. So we will present about the crime punishment and death penalty. So next. Okay. So this is your present for this presentation. We have Nur Fatin Akira binti Muhammad Suhaidi and me Nur Aina Zifah binti Kamar Zaman. So in this topic, we have 4 subtopic, which is we have crime punishment, rehabilitation, capital punishment, and juvenile delinquency. Okay, so at the first one, I will explain about the crime punishment. Okay, so what is crime? So crime is deliberate act that causes physical or psychological harm, damage to or loss of property, and is against the law. Or crime, an action or an instance of negligence that deem injuries to the public welfare or moral or to the interest of the state, and that is legally prohibited. Next, so what is punishment? So punishment is infliction of some kind of pain or loss upon the person for the misdeed. For example, the transgression of the law or command. So punishment may take from ragging, from capital punishment, flogging, forced labor, and mutilation of the body, imprisonment, and fine. Deferred punishment consists of penalties that are imposed only if an offence is repeated in a specific time. So, in this part, how about punishment morally justifiable? Okay, in this part, I will explain about two perspective, which is come from Western perspective and Islamic perspective. Okay, we go to the Western perspective first. So, according to utilitarian moral thinker, punishment can be justified solely by its consequences. So, from that, according to the utilitarian, according to utilitarian account of punishment, ought to be punished means that A has done an act harmful to people and need to be prevented by punishment or treated with it. So according to constitutionalist interpretation, punishment is justified a way of achieving a worthwhile goal, usually crime reduction, the deterrence, incapacitation, or reforming offenders. Retributism, on the other hand, believes that punishment criminal is innately proper and earned response. Okay, so we go to Islamic perspective. So crime in Islam defined in Arabic by the words al-jinayah or al-jarimah. The word al-jinayah is defined as all form of prohibited and destructive act, either act on body, poverty, and other than that. So according to the Al-Mawardi, define crime as a all form of offences according to Sharia that can be punished based on the law of God, whether qisas, wudu, and tanzir. This definition attempt to distinguish possible error punished with offences that cannot be punished by the government. So this make a scope crime is great because the offences can be punished by the government according to Sharia. Sharia is considered a crime. So next, so Islam is considered a crime and offences that must be punished because it's violating the right of Allah and the right of human beings or other beings. So Islam value the glory of religion, life, intellect, poverty, and dignity. Violation of these five things is a crime that needs to be punished. Okay, to make an act a crime, it must meet the following elements. Okay, for the first is the legal element. For example, is a clear provision prohibits the criminal act and makes it a punishable offense. So the element of action is to commit the action that constituents offensive. And last, the element of eligibility is el- eligibility is to look the age, ability, and responsibilities of the criminal. Okay, next, this is purpose of punishment. So the purpose of punishment that we have five points. First, deterrence, rehabilitation, retribution, and restitution. So we go one by one. So I will explain about the deterrence. So deterrence prevent future crime by the frightening the defendant or the public. So the two types of the deterrence are specific and general deterrence. Okay, for the specific deterrence apply to individual defendant. When the government punish an individual defendant, he or she is theoretically less likely to commit another crime because of the fear of other similar or worth punishment. And for general deterrence apply to the public at large. When the public learn of an individual defendant's punishment, the public is theor- theoretically less likely to commit a crime because fear of the punishment of defendant accident. When the public learns, for example, that an individual defendant was severely punished by the sentence of life in prison of death penalty, this knowledge can inspire a deep fear of criminal prosecution. Okay, next, for incapacitation. So incapacitation prevent future crime by removing the defendants from society. For example, incapacitation or incarceration, house arrest, or execution pursuant to the death penalty. Next, rehabilitation. So rehabilitation prevent future crime by altering a defendant's behavior. For example, of rehabilitation include educational and vocational program, treatment center replacement, and counseling. So the court in rehabilitation with incarceration with probation or parole. In the same state, for example, non-violent offender must participate in rehabilitation in combination with probation rather than submitting to incarceration. This lighten the road of jail and prison while lowering recidivism, recidivism, which means re-offending. Okay. Next, retribution. So retribution prevent future crime by removing the desire for personal avengement in the form as assault, battery, and criminal homicide, for example, against defendants. When victim or society discover that defendants have been adequately punished for the crime, they achieve a certain satisfaction that our criminal procedure is working effectively, which hence faith in law of, of enforcement and our government. Okay, last restitution. Restitution prevents future crime by punishing the defendant financially. Restitution is when the courts order the criminal defendants to pay the victim for any harm and resemble a civil litigation damage award. Restitution can be physical injuries, loss of property or money, and rarely emotional distress. It can also be a fine that covers some of the cost of criminal prosecution and punishment. Okay, so this is type of crime. Actually, we have 6 type of crime. First, antisocial behavior. So, antisocial behavior is a quality of life is badly affected by another people in community. Then you would be a victim of antisocial behavior. For example, like uh, noise, nuisance, neighbor dispute, and verbal abuse. So second is arson. Someone deliberately set fire to someone else's property to damage it or to injure people. Like victim, for example, victim may lose all their property, be made homeless, injured, and suffer a very painful death. I think third, childhood abuse. Childhood abuse can happen in different ways and can include neglect as well physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. In many, um, in many cases, people experience more than one type of abuse. So, example of child abuse like emotional harm and physical harm. So next, crime abroad. So crime abroad cover many criminal offences that happen to you while outside England and Wales, like crime on the cruise ship. So okay, next, cyber crime and online fraud. The term cyber crime refers to the term cybercrime refers to a variety of the crimes carried out online. So committing crime online allows someone to hide their identity and location, which in some cases in thousands of miles away. So people who commit cybercrime are often well organized and believable online. Okay, so last is domestic abuse. So domestic abuse is described negative behavior that one person as exhibited. Domestic abuse describe negative behavior that one person exhibit over another within families or relationship. For example, like physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, uh, creative, creative, apa? Creative control and gaslighting emotional abuse. Okay. So we continue to rehabilitation. So what is rehabilitation? So rehabilitation is defined as a set of intervention designed to optimize functioning and reduce disability in individual with health condition and interaction with their environment. Purpose of rehabilitation in punishment. So the most recently formulated theory of punishment is that of rehabilitation. So the purpose of punishment is to apply treatment and training to the offender so that he is made capable of returning to the society and functioning as a law abiding members of the community. Psychologists are not only providing treatment to the prisoner, they only contributing to debate over the nature of prison itself. So this is type of rehabilitation. At the first, education rehabilitation for inmates. So the statistic providing the value behind providing education program in prison have helped change the landscape of educational offering for inmates. Positive outcome for inmates who leave the prison more educated than when they enter filtered down into the community. Second, the counseling rehabilitation for inmates. So inmates who have opportunity to engage the prison work program while incarcerated have a easy time getting work once they are released. Okay, next, employ rehabilitation for inmates. So, prison counselor play a significant role in rehabilitation for inmates. This criminal justice and mental health provision provide a guidance to inmates throughout the duration of the sentence. Next, wellness rehabilitation for inmates. Physical and mental wellness bring clarify and purpose to many inmates during their sentence. Making good nutrition choices with meal in prison also be difficult, but with effort, the healthy diet can be maintained. And last, community rehabilitation in inmates. Rehabilitation for inmates continue throughout an inmate's life, even after they have left the system. Re-entering society and taking steps to enjoy the community is necessary piece of the rehabilitation process. So this pro and cons rehabilitation. Okay, for pros, tendency of convicted criminal to reoffend decrease, qualified staff and trainers, social integration. And for cons, recidivism, the tendency of the convicted criminal to reoffend, limited resources and inadequate qualified staff and trainers, and social adjustment. Okay. So rehabilitation, moral or immoral. So rehabilitation is necessary in order to transform a person because it focuses on the emotional aspect of human as often to on opposite to only punishment. So I pass to Fatima.
Okay, I will
So
continue the
the
presentation. Next slide.
presentation, next slide.
Okay, so what is
So
capital
what is
punishment?
capital punishment?
So punishment
So punishment
by this
by the
or the practice
or
of
the
killing
practice
people as
as
punishment for crime, for serious crime, which is from Merriam-Webster dictionary. And also, capital punishment or death penalty is a legal process whereby a person is put to death by the state as a punishment for a crime. Um, so, capital punishment is the ultimate punishment one can receive from a court of law. So, this type of punishment has existed for centuries. But historically, government have sentenced a criminal to death for major and minor crimes against government for their leaders and also members of the society. Also, criminal punishment was administered in a harsh manner, such as public hanging. So we will see the example of capital punishment. Next slide. Okay, this is capital crimes that punishable by death. First is murder, and next is trafficking in dangerous drugs. So, trafficking means someone manufacturing, importing, or exporting, shipping, concealing, buying, and selling or giving, and all about drugs. And for treason means they are showing no loyalty to your country, especially by helping its enemies or trying to defeat for government. And next is and committing terrorist acts. And next is kidnapping or abducting in order to murder means whoever kidnaps or abducts any any person in order that such person may be murdered or may be so disposed of as to be put in danger or being murdered shall be punishment with imprisonment for a life or rigorous imprisonment for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine, which is from Indian Penal Code 1860. And next is possession of weapon. So the mean of possession is the unlawful possession of a weapon by an individual. So typically this covers military device such as bombs, artillery, machine guns, nuclear device, and chemical weapons. So next is genocide means the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation of a group. Also, last is espionage means the practice of spying of using spies and this is typically by government to obtain political and military information. Next slide. Okay. Next slide is method of capital punishment. So number one is guillotine. So guillotine is a device consisting of a sharp blade in a tall frame, which is thing like the picture, and it's used in the past for killing criminals by cutting off their head. And this is introduced into France in 1972. Next, next punishment is next punishment is lethal injection. So lethal injection is the practice of inject, injecting one or more drugs into a person for the express purpose of causing rapid death. So the drug causes the person to become unconscious and lastly will stop their breathing. So this activity was proposed in 1888 by a New York doctor. Number three, the method is shooting. So a person is shoot to death by one or more firearms, and this activity also common method of execution for worldwide. Next is stoning to death. So means is a group throws stone at a person until the subject dies from blunt trauma, and also it has been attested as a form of punishment for grave misdeeds since ancient time. It seems like in the picture, which is everyone throws stones to a victim. So next slide is electrocution. Uh, Also means the using an electric chair. So this is originating in the United States, in which the condemned person is strapped to a specially built wooden chair and electrocuted through electrodes fastened on the head and leg. And also it has been used in the United States and Philippines. Next slide. Okay, number 6 is lethal gas. So the condemned person is strapped onto a chair within an airtight chamber, which is then sealed. Next is the execu- executioner activates a mechanism which drops potassium cyanide pellets into a bath of sulfuric acid beneath the chair. So, the chemical reaction that follows produces fatal hydrogen cyanide gas. Next slide. Number 7 is death by hanging. So, this activity is by strangling or breaking the neck by a suspended noose, and the person to be hanged stands on a trapdoor, and when the trap is released, they fall several feet until stopped by the rope tied around their neck. And this penalty are carried out in Malaysia by hanging, and the penalty is mandatory. Next slide. Okay, this is pros and cons of capital punishment. So for pros, we can provide a deterrent against violent crime, and also can eliminate the possibility of an escape and future victim, and also for safety the rest of society. And for the cause is the death penalty can execute someone who is possible innocent, and also family members of a victim are adversely impacted by the death penalty. Next slide. Okay, this is moral arguments of capital punishment. Um, the supporters of the death sentence think that people who commit murder have forfeit their right to life since they have taken the life of another. So furthermore, they feel that this punishment is a legitimate form of a retribution, expressing and reinforcing not only the moral outrage of the victim's family, but also the moral indignation of all law-abiding individuals. So next slide. Many governments have substituted the death penalty with life imprisonment as a more humanistic method of punishment. The death sentence cannot be reversed if it was used incorrectly, whereas incarceration may be corrected by various releasing the victim if he is subsequently shown to be innocent. So a dead person cannot reimburse for an incorrect death penalty sentence. However, an unfair incarceration can be compensated with money. This is a moral judgment of capital punishment. Next slide. Okay. Last subtopic is juvenile delinquency. So we go to the definition first. Okay. Juvenile delinquency, also known as juvenile offending, or in Bahasa Malaysia, means juvana, and this is individual under the age of 18 who fails to abide by the laws, and it is an act of participating in unlawful behavior as a minor or individual younger than the statutory age of majority from holding 1990. And each state has been each state has a separate legal system in place to deal with juvenile who break the law. So according to the Section 82 Penal Code Act 574, any person who is under the age of 18 will not be considered as an adult. Next slide. So juvenile we can say there are two categories. First is criminal behavior. So these crimes dealt with by the criminal justice system, and number two is status offences. So offences that are only classified as such because they are only a minor can commit them. So we go to the next slide. Okay, this is type of juvenile delinquency. Number one is repeat offenders. So repeat offenders is also known as life course persistent offenders, and this is begin offending or showing other signs of antisocial behavior during adolescence, and also continue to engage in criminal activities or aggressive behavior even after they enter adulthood. And number two is age specific offenders. So why age specific offenders leave their delinquent behavior behind when they enter adulthood? They often have more mental health problems, engage in substance abuse, and have greater financial problems than adults who were never delinquent as the juveniles. Next slide. Okay, this is example of juvenile crime. So number one is bullying, drug addiction, theft, vandalism, robbery, fighting, raping, and last is alcoholic. So next is okay. This is the factors of juvenile. So number one is is come from personal or individual factors, also from peer influence, um, uh, from parenting style or family environment, substance abuse, also economic problem. So next slide, I will explain more. Okay, first for personal or individual factors. Uh, for the behavioral risk factors is include low intelligence, impulsiveness, or the inability to delay gratification, aggression, lack of empathy, and restlessness. For psychological is juvenile delinquents are often diagnosed with different disorder. Around 6 to 16% of male teens and 2 to 9% of female teens have a conduct disorder for juvenile. Next slide. Okay, number two is parenting style or family environment. So there are more factors, which is the level of parental supervision, the way parents discipline a child, parental abuse or neglect, parental conflict or separation, also criminal activity by parents or siblings, and the quality of the parent-child relationship. Next slide. Number three is peer influence. So usually resulting from leaving adolescent unsupervised, they are encouraging a child to engage in bad behavior when acting with his peer group. Also, conformity plays a significant role because peer can have a dramatic effect on what choices they make when they are away from home. And minors will often act out in front of their friends so that they feel accepted and are a part of a group and reason for juvenile delinquency. Next slide. Number four is substance abuse. So, when a teen is using drugs or alcohol, there is significantly higher risk for criminal activity. So, there are two reasons. First is the minor will commit crimes so that they can support their habit, and also the decision making process in the minor is also, and they have not actually true actually true actually true. Okay, next slide. Okay, number five is for economic problem. Is poverty. So poverty is more common in poorer neighborhoods, while all neighborhoods are not exempt from delinquent activities. It is believed they happen more in areas where children feel they must commit crimes to prosper. So, the only time help for this situation is to make sure that children in this area have access to what they need and understand that they do not have to commit crimes to get ahead, ahead or life. Next slide. Okay. For preventing juvenile, there are eight, seven, which is number one is substance abuse treatment, police involvement, rehabilitation institution like what Sister Ain said in the previous slide, and also parenting education. Next slide. uh, Family and individual counseling, juvenile reform from the authorities, and also family planning services from parents for having their child juvenile. Next slide. So it's our preference. Next slide. So thank you from us.